My name is Lauren, and I am telling this story at a time when everything is already over. But back in January 2025, I had no idea that I was about to become part of a story people would later call a curse. I had just gotten married and moved to Riley Creek, Ohio, a small, quiet American town where nights fall silent and everyone knows each other by name. My husband, Alex, serves in the U.S. Army. At that time, he was still home, but we both knew his deployment was coming soon. Our marriage was only a few months old, a new house, a new life, and deep inside my heart, a strange fear that very soon I would be alone. That day still lives clearly in my memory. Alex went to his parents' old house to clean out the attic. When he returned, he was holding something in his hands. An old mirror. A heavy wooden frame, strange markings carved along its edges, and glass that looked far older than it should have been. The moment I saw it, I said, "This feels strange. Why did you bring this here?" Alex laughed and replied, "It belonged to my grandmother. It's just an antique." Then he told me something his grandmother used to say. "Never open this mirror." A quiet unease settled inside me, but I didn't argue. It was 2025. We were modern people. Who still believed in curses? That night, everything changed. I dreamed I was standing in front of that same mirror, but my reflection wasn't there. Instead, there was a shadow. Tall, faceless, completely still. And then a voice spoke, soft yet terrifying. "The debt returns in 1 year." I woke up screaming. My entire body was drenched in sweat. My heart was pounding so violently it felt like it would tear through my chest. Alex was beside me. He pulled me into his arms and said, "It was just a dream, Lauren. You're exhausted." I tried to believe him. Maybe it really was just stress. But the next day, small things started happening. I slipped in the kitchen for no reason. Another day, I missed a step on the stairs. One morning, a knife slipped from my hand. Nothing serious, but always at the wrong moment, in the wrong place. Alex said, "You're overthinking everything." But I knew that dream was not ordinary. That night, for the first time, I truly looked at the mirror. The room was silent. Alex was asleep. And I swear, it felt like something was moving inside the glass. I turned on the light. There was nothing. But a thought had already settled deep inside my heart. This house, this mirror, was no longer empty. For a few days, there was peace. Nothing happened. I convinced myself to forget the mirror dream, telling myself it was just the stress of a new marriage. But deep inside, a strange uneasiness remained, as if a hidden shadow was always hovering above me. Then, in March 2025, the phone call came. The one that truly left me alone. Alex's phone rang. I was in the kitchen. The lights were dim. The only glow came from the refrigerator. Every small shadow in the room felt larger than it should have been. I looked at his face. There was an expression I had never seen before. Silence. Then just one sentence. "Yeah, I understand. I'll be ready." When the call ended, he looked at me. He didn't say anything, but I already knew. "Lauren, I've been given an early deployment." Ukraine. That word echoed in my ears. Ukraine. War. Thousands of miles away, and me, alone in this house. My heart began pounding violently. Every breath trembled. I didn't speak. I just held onto his chest. For a long time, neither of us said a word. My mind was drowning in questions. Would I really see him again? Would all of this end like a bad dream? The next few days passed too quickly. Uniforms, packed bags, silent nights. The shadows inside the house felt heavier now. Even the soft hum of the refrigerator at night sounded threatening. On his last night, Alex looked at the mirror and said, in a strange, uneasy voice, "I don't know why, but I don't like this thing." I replied, "Then take it with you." He shook his head. "This belongs to the house. I'll come back." My heart knew how close that sounded to the truth, but I stayed quiet. Then the day I feared arrived, the day Alex left. When he was gone, the house truly became empty. On the first day, I kept myself busy. Housework, phone calls, talking to my mother, talking to Alex's mother, watching videos on my phone, scrolling endlessly through Instagram. Every notification gave me a brief sense of relief, but it never lasted. On the second day, the loneliness set in. I had talked to everyone. Instagram felt boring, and the silence began to press down on me. Every shadow, every small noise, now felt larger and dangerous. On the third day, something changed. Late at night, Alex video called me. The signal was weak. His face looked tired and afraid. I said quietly, "I don't feel good here." He smiled, but even that smile couldn't comfort me. "Just a few months. You're strong." Suddenly, something moved behind me. Alex froze. "Lauren, who's behind you?" I turned around. There was nothing. The call disconnected. I told myself Alex must have made an excuse to hang up, but inside, my heart was shaking with fear. That same week, the small misfortunes increased. Doors closing on their own, footsteps at night, and the same dream again. The shadow, the mirror, the whisper. I told myself, this is all in your head. But standing in front of the mirror, I heard it clearly. "He left you." My hands began to tremble. My heart nearly stopped. I messaged Alex, "I think this mirror isn't right." His reply came much later. "Lauren, please don't panic. I'll be back." But he wasn't here, and the shadows knew it. Then Alex's brother, Jake, called. "Lauren, I lost my job." Before I could respond, he added, "And I think there's someone in my room." My heart sank. This wasn't just happening to me. Jake, Alex's brother, lived in another city. I tried to calm him. "It's nothing. You lost your job. That's probably why you feel this way." "No," he said quickly. "This started before that. The job came later." Time kept moving. Sometimes strange things happened. Glasses shattered on their own. Unfamiliar sounds echoed at night. I tried to ignore it, but my racing heartbeat and the way my hair stood on end never let me forget. I held my phone, scrolled through Instagram, but every post felt colorless, as if the world itself had gone silent. One night, I was sitting in front of the mirror, lost in my thoughts. That was the moment I finally admitted something to myself. This wasn't happening only to me. Something was wrong. And that wrong had started touching all of us. Terrifying thoughts raced through my mind. If something happened to me, who would come? Alex was in another country. I was here, alone. And inside me, an innocent child was growing. The thought of my baby ignited another wave of fear. Every breath, every heartbeat reminded me how completely alone I was. I was drowning in my thoughts when suddenly my phone rang. The name on the screen? Jake, Alex's younger brother. His voice was shaking. "Lauren, I'm not okay." I asked, "What happened?" He said, "Strange things are happening to me too. At night, it feels like someone is in my room." My blood ran cold. A chill moved straight through my chest. Then he said, "I'm coming to you. I'm leaving right now." The call ended. Restlessness rushed through my body. I stood by the window. The sky was covered in clouds. The wind was strong. The trees were trembling, as if something was hiding among them. Every shadow looked threatening now. About half an hour later, my phone rang again. It wasn't Jake. It was an unknown number. "Is this Lauren Riley?" My lips went dry. "Yes?" "This is Highway Patrol. Jake Riley has been in an accident." The phone slipped from my hand. Only one thought echoed in my ears. He was coming, and he never arrived. At the hospital, my legs trembled when I saw Jake. Cuts on his face, bandages on his arm, and in his eyes, fear. He grabbed my hand and said only one thing. "Lauren, the car turned on its own." I asked, "How?" He said, "I didn't turn the steering wheel, but there was a shadow on the road." I closed my eyes. My heart was pounding violently. Moments later, the car flipped. Jake was brought back home. That was when I knew this was real. This was not a dream. That same evening, Alex called from Ukraine. I told him everything. There was silence. Then he said, quietly, "That mirror, I knew something was wrong with it." Something broke inside me, but I gathered my strength. That night, for the first time, I went to my mother-in-law, Linda's house. She was sitting on the couch, her face pale, her breathing heavy, her eyes exhausted. She said, "Lauren, for days now, it feels like something is pulling my weight away." The doctors couldn't explain anything. I didn't stay long. I couldn't tell her the truth. She was already unwell. When I returned home, I stood in front of the mirror again. My heart was racing. I whispered, "Why is all this happening?" The room was completely silent. Then a whisper answered, "Blood remembers." My entire body tingled. Fear rushed through my veins. I stepped out of the room and told Jake. He was awake. Jake asked, "Who was speaking?" I was about to answer, but I stopped. I knew it now. This wasn't just bad luck. It was spreading, and we were trapped inside it. Another fear took shape inside my heart. This mirror wasn't just an object. It was a signal, a warning, and I finally understood. No one was safe anymore. After Jake's accident, we all agreed on one thing. This was not an accident. This was not some random act of fate. This was a shadow, a presence spreading through our lives, felt in every moment, as if the walls of the house themselves were creaking and shadows were leaving whispers in every corner of our existence. Alex was in a war zone, but that night I told him everything. Jake, the accident, his mother's illness, everything. And the feeling that all of it was connected. A blurred fear, an invisible smoke surrounding us. There was silence on the call. Then Alex said, "Lauren, if the problem is that mirror, destroy it. Throw it far away from the house." I felt a brief sense of relief, but deep inside, I knew the solution was incomplete. Every shadow now seemed to listen, to watch, to wait. The next day, I told Jake what Alex had said. Put the mirror in the car and we'll throw it somewhere far away. Jake looked at me. There was no fear in his eyes. There was anger, and a kind of understanding that an ordinary person should not have. He said, "No, Lauren." I asked, "Why? All of this is happening because of it." Jake slowly shook his head. "If a piece of glass can destroy our lives like this, then the problem isn't the glass." A strange weight settled on my chest, heavy breaths pressing down on me. He continued, "We have to go to the root of it, how it started, who did it, and why." For the first time, I realized something. Jake was the most affected among us, and maybe he was the one who understood it the most. There was an awareness inside him, a determination, one that could save us if we were ready. We decided to involve someone from the outside. We went to the police station. I told the officer everything, the accident, the voices, the mirror. He listened, then gently said, "Ma'am, this is stress. You need rest." We left empty-handed. After that, Jake brought in a local investigator. He wasn't paranormal. He solved cases, insurance fraud, unusual accidents, the kind of clues normal people ignored. He looked at the mirror and said only one thing. "This isn't an object, it's a symbol." I asked, "A symbol of what?" He replied, "Of an old time, something that was never addressed, a hidden legacy that is now returning." That night, when we returned home, I noticed something disturbing. The mirror had shifted slightly from its place, as if someone had touched it without being seen. Jake swore he hadn't gone near it. I called Alex. I said, "Alex, this thing isn't leaving us." There was a pause. Then he said, "Lauren, what if we throw it away and it comes back?" Cold ran through my body. My hands felt restrained. With every heartbeat, the shadow felt one step closer. That night, I dreamed. I was standing on a road. The mirror was in my hands. I threw it, but it didn't break. It fell back into my hands, heavier, more dangerous. And a voice whispered, "You can run, but you cannot erase it." I woke up gasping, my heart stealing my breath. I knew it then. This problem would not end by hiding it. This wasn't something that stayed hidden. It spread. And maybe we had already made the wrong decision, because under the shadow of that mirror, we were only moving forward toward a fear that was no longer under our control. December 2025 had arrived, and by then we were forced to accept something terrifying. The thing we were running from was no longer behind us. It had slipped between us. Every shadow, every silence, every empty room was now planting fear deep inside our hearts. Alex was still in Ukraine. War, time difference, weak signals. And at the end of every call, the same sentence kept carving itself into my soul. I'm stuck here, Lauren. And I was trapped inside a house that felt quiet during the day, but at night, it felt like it was breathing, as if something was whispering inside the walls, as if something was moving beneath the ceiling. This house had become my enemy. Every room felt like it was tightening its grip on me. Jake was the first to break. He started living in my house. He couldn't stay alone anymore, because the moment he was alone, it came. His terrified face, his trembling hands, his hair soaked in sweat, everything about him was warning me that this was no longer normal. One night, I heard a loud crash from his room, as if furniture had been dragged violently across the floor. I ran inside. Jake was sitting on the edge of the bed, drenched in sweat, breathing in broken gasps, and on his arm, fresh scratches, deep, red, still bleeding, as if nails had dug into his flesh. I screamed, "What is this?" He couldn't look at me. He just whispered, "It doesn't just appear anymore, Lauren. It touches." My legs gave out. Every breath felt like a blow to my chest. I immediately called Alex. The video connected. The moment Alex saw Jake's arm, his face went pale. He said, "This isn't a joke anymore. This has crossed the line." That same week, the line broke for me too. I was standing in the kitchen when I suddenly heard breathing behind me. Warm, close, terrifying, as if someone's mouth was right near my neck. I turned around. Nothing. Just darkness. But I knew someone was there, watching me. That night, pain started in my stomach. Not normal pain, pain mixed with fear. Jake rushed me to the hospital. The doctor studied the reports and said, "Reduce stress, or there's a risk of premature labor." My breath froze. All I could think about was one thing: our child. I messaged Alex immediately. "Our baby is in danger." The reply came late. Just one line: "I can't do anything." And that's the worst part. One day before the new year, another blow hit us. Alex's job, whatever his civilian future was supposed to be, was terminated. Mysterious data leak. He didn't get angry. He didn't shout. He only said, "Everything is being taken from us, slowly." January 1st, 2026. The most terrifying night of all. The power went out. The entire house drowned in darkness. And then, the mirror. It began to shake on its own, as if something inside it was pushing outward. Jake screamed, "Lauren, step back!" Shadows started running across the walls, long, broken, shapeless. My heart was pounding violently. I felt like something inside my stomach was twisting. I collapsed onto the floor, gasping. At that exact moment, Alex's call came through. On live video, he saw everything. And for the first time, he shouted, "Enough!" Alex made the decision. Take it back to where it came from. We placed the mirror in the car. At 2 in the morning, we reached the old cemetery where the Riley family graves were. The wind was violent. The trees were screaming, as if they were warning us. I pressed record on my phone. My hands were shaking. I said, "We accept it. What happened was wrong. We are carrying the burden." The shadow grew darker near the grave. Jake screamed, "Now!" Alex was on the screen shouting, "Break it now!" I slammed the mirror into the ground with all my strength. First strike, nothing. Second strike, cracks formed. Third strike, a scream, not human. And then the mirror shattered. Silence. A silence so heavy it felt like the earth and sky had stopped breathing. I sat there, gasping, my heart racing, and slowly the pain in my stomach began to fade. Jake whispered, "Lauren, I think it's gone." I looked up at the sky. For the first time, the darkness felt empty. And for the first time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we were safe. When Jake and I returned home, for the first time, we felt it. The house truly felt lighter, as if the months of fear, the endless silence, had finally left a trace of calm behind. It was night. The air was perfectly still. We sat together, without saying a word, just our presence giving a quiet comfort, a small hope that perhaps now this house would no longer scare us. The next day, Alex came home. We all sat together, carrying the heavy silence of our hearts, and made a decision. We would no longer live in this house. This was the place where shadows, fear, and pain had surrounded us, and now we knew they would follow us wherever we went. We wanted to start over, somewhere new, a place where the night shadows couldn't terrify us and where our child would be safe. Jake began searching for a new job, Alex reorganized his career, and we packed our belongings, driving nearly 120 kilometers away to a new town, a fresh start. Yet, amid all this, there was one thing that could never give us peace. Jake's mother, Linda. Her health had remained fragile after the hospital, and we all knew the time was short. Facing that reality was heart-wrenching, and we waited quietly, holding our breath. One day, she took her last breath. We fell silent. Once again, life's bitterness shook us. We said our final goodbyes, and she was gone forever. But there was a small comfort in knowing that perhaps her soul was now free, released from this pain. In our new town, when we stepped into our new home, for the first time, we felt that maybe we could truly start over, a new life, where the shadows and fear were lighter, and where our child could be safe. Alex said, "We've left everything behind. Here, it's just us and our child, and our new life begins." There was silence, but inside, a small flicker of hope, the feeling that, after fear and loss, it was possible to move towards the light, and maybe now we could finally build a world safe for ourselves. Slowly, our lives began to feel normal again. The days, once filled with fear, anxiety, and chaos, now carried a quiet stillness, as if time itself was laying its hands on our wounds and soothing them. Jake soon got a new job. For the first time in months, he looked truly happy, as if something broken inside him was mending itself. Alex was searching for a job too, but his mind remained tied to his ongoing duty in Ukraine, as if a part of him was still trapped there. It was the final day of December, and the cold air carried a strange weariness. One evening, Jake came home, tired but content. For the first time in a long while, we spent time together without fear. We talked, we laughed, and somewhere deep in my heart, hope stirred. Maybe, finally, things were getting better. I held our child in my arms and looked at Jake, and for a moment I felt a peace I hadn't known in months. The next day, Alex also found a good job. He became a trainer at a gym. The pay was decent, and I silently thanked the universe that perhaps peace was finally returning. That night, Jake laughed and said to Alex, "Give me a treat too. I got a job." Alex smiled. "Yes, everything is yours. Take whatever you want." He pulled out some bills and handed them to Jake. Jake started packing happily, and I felt a slight unease in my chest, a fear without reason, but I dismissed it as nothing. The next morning, Jake started the car and drove off. Alex was preparing for his duty, and I watched the scene with our child in my arms as Jake slowly disappeared from sight. I knew he was leaving, but I did not know where or what awaited him. The day passed, but a strange apprehension lingered in my heart. As the sun sets and cold air swept over the town, the phone rang. My heart stopped for a moment. I answered. It was Alex. He was crying. Every word shook my world. "Lauren, Jake had an accident. He's badly hurt. Come to the hospital, now." My hands trembled. My heartbeat raced uncontrollably. I held our child tight and ran to the car. The road blurred around me, as if a haze had fallen between reality and nightmare. Every moment was fear, every second a countdown. Entering the hospital room, my eyes fell on Jake's bed. He was injured, bloodied, groaning in pain. Alex stood beside him, motionless, stunned, tears in his eyes, as if everything inside him had frozen. I approached and asked, "Jake, where were you? How did this happen?" Jake's voice trembled. Through tears, between pain and fear, he began to explain. "Lauren, Alex, I went because my friends asked me to the place where we broke the mirror. We saw its fragments, paused for a few moments, laughed, said, 'Finally, we're free from the shadow.' Then, when we got in the car, everything seemed normal. But suddenly, darkness fell before my eyes. A shadow figure, floating in the air, and it crashed into our car with force. It felt like a truck had crushed us. The car went out of control. I couldn't do anything. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Silence filled the room. Alex just stared at Jake, unable to speak, as if the same fear had awakened inside him. Jake, gasping for air, continued. "Lauren, Alex, the shadow, it was never just a fragment. It will never leave us. I know. It will come back." In that moment, I finally understood with full intensity that this accident was not ordinary. It wasn't reckless driving. It was the same shadow, returning once again into our lives. Jake's one mistake had brought it back, and we were about to be trapped in its grasp. Again. I could still feel it, on the hospital walls, in the shadows above, and deep within my heart. We had to face the truth. These were no accidents. They were chapters of the same story, and each chapter ended with some loss. The shadow first came for us in the old house, the house where the mirror broke, where silence itself seemed to breathe, and where we first understood that fear doesn't live in walls, it lives between us. It first went to Jake, into his mind, his sleep, his fears. Then his mother, Linda. She died, quietly, slowly, as if someone had drawn out her very weight. Then it turned to Alex. In Ukraine, in the middle of a war, where every day death was near. His job, his future, his identity, all stripped away, one by one. We moved to a new house. We thought a new place would mean a new beginning. But shadows are not bound by walls. It forced us out from there too. Then, Jake's accident happened. A friend died. Blood, screams. And the shadow that vanished for a moment, only to return and destroy everything the next. It struck Alex again, then returned to Jake, and every time it took something from us. Now, Jake was unemployed, Alex was unemployed. We had no home of our own. The only thing left, the only thing we could call happiness, was our child. And I knew, if we continued on that path, the shadow would take him too. So, we left the city. It wasn't escape. It was the only way to end the war. We didn't care where the shadow went. We only decided one thing. It would never reach our child. Because some curses cannot be broken. They must be starved, ignored, denied the one thing that keeps them alive: our attention, our fear, our blood. We still don't know where the shadow is. Maybe it breathes in the quiet walls of another home. Maybe it peers from another mirror. But one thing we know: we did not let it win. We lost everything, except one thing. And that one thing we would never, ever lose. Because this story was not about the curse. It was about a mother's choice.